Hey everyone, my name is Newell Fisk, and for my final ecology and society project, I will be looking at the ecological effects of Hurricane Katrina. So the agenda, I'm going to start with the overview. Why do I want to do my final project on this? Well, because I have family members in Louisiana that were directly impacted by this, and my father's ambulance company was recruited to go down there and help. So I'll be looking at the effects of flooding on drinking water quality, the effects of the oil spill on the mental health and overall well-being of people in the area that worked on the cleanup, and the effect of Hurricane Katrina's carbon footprint on U.S. Gulf Coast forests. And I will also look into prevention recommendations. So, some quick facts about Hurricane Katrina. It was the largest and third strongest hurricane ever to make landfall. The levees that were designed in the city of New Orleans were for Category 3 hurricanes, and Katrina was a Category 5 hurricane. The death toll was 1,836 people, primarily from Louisiana and Mississippi. Over 80% of New Orleans was underwater at one time. The hurricane affected over 15 million people. It raised the cost of oil, so Katrina damaged 19% of U.S. oil production. It destroyed 113 offshore oil and gas platforms when combined with Hurricane Rita, which followed soon afterward. They damaged 457 oil and gas pipelines and spilled almost as much oil as the Exxon Valdez disaster. That caused oil prices to increase by $3 a barrel, and gas prices almost reached $5 a gallon. So Hurricane Katrina cost a staggering $108 billion, but the insurance companies only covered about 80 billion of those losses. It left in its wake 118 million cubic yards of debris. So the effect of flooding on drinking water quality. Without electricity, water pumps and wastewater treatment plants couldn't function. To make matters worse, floodwaters overloaded the sewage system, contaminating flooded areas. The city's drinking water infrastructure was severely compromised, and massive amounts of sediment were redeposited throughout the flooded region. Thousands of homes were water damaged, resulting in the rapid growth of mold. The contaminated floodwaters covering much of New Orleans for almost 2 months contained a mix of raw sewage, bacteria, millions of gallons of oil, heavy metals, pesticides, and toxic chemicals, raising health concerns for residents and cleanup workers. So, samples were taken throughout the worst hit regions of New Orleans in a few different regions highlighted in the picture on the right. So, those samples were assessed for microbial contamination and heavy metal concentrations. So the surface water that was tested contained high concentrations of bacterial indicators, whereas no bacteria were detected in the tap water, even from taps containing no chlorine residual. Sediment samples contained concentrations of lead and arsenic similar to pre-Katrina concentrations. The presence of high concentrations of bacterial indicators in surface water samples collected from flooded regions of the city were indicative of the large volumes of human waste that were present in the sewer system of a large metropolitan region. So, the elevated lead and arsenic concentrations in soils place communities at risk for hazardous environmental exposures. So, to get around this, Anheuser-Busch, the beer company, like many of us know, stopped production of making beer and switch over to drinking water and donate it to the cause and help with the cleanup. So the effects of the oil spill on the mental health and overall well-being of people in the area that worked on the cleanup. In New Orleans, many hospitals and nursing homes were flooded before patients and staff had the ability to evacuate. But after the storm, healthcare remained compromised for patients who were evacuated to other areas and those who remained in the region. Medical and prescription records were destroyed. Disruptions of pharmacy and distribution networks left patients without necessary medicines, and emergency medical services operations were adversely affected. Usual patient care patterns were disrupted as transportation network failed, and after many physicians, other healthcare professionals, and their staffs were forced to relocate and care for themselves and their own families. So the effects of the oil spill on rescue or mental health. So out of all the first responders, 19% of them reported that they had PTSD symptoms, while 26% of them reported major depressive symptoms. For all living in the area, levels of reported depression, anxiety, and stress and PTSD symptoms were examined in relation to other domains of functioning potentially affected by the spill. As predicted, high levels of decline in finances, social relationships, and physical health were observed, as were high levels of self-reported mental health symptoms. So the rebuilding the Gulf Coast goes far beyond the need for repairing or building the physical infrastructure. For the rebuilding efforts to be truly a success, the healthcare infrastructure, including healthcare workers and patients they serve, must be a primary focus of attention and investment, and it was. So the effect of Hurricane Katrina's carbon footprint on U.S. Gulf Coast forests. Hurricane Katrina killed or damaged about 320 million large trees, representing a loss of about 105 teragrams of stored carbon. So just for a little comparison, 1 teragram is 1 million metric tons, and 105 teragrams is more carbon emitted in a year by all the power plants in the state of Texas. So the carbon footprint, it affected 5 million acres of forest across Mississippi, Louisiana, and Alabama, with damage ranging from downed trees, snapped trunks, and broken limbs to stripped leaves. So the forest damage. Young growing forests play a vital role in removing carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas, from the atmosphere by photosynthesis, and are thus important in slowing a warming climate. An event that kills a great number of trees can temporarily reduce photosynthesis, the process by which carbon is stored in plants. More importantly, all the dead wood will be consumed by decomposers, resulting in a large carbon dioxide released to the atmosphere as the ecosystem exhales it as forest waste product. So, prevention recommendations. Property damage could have been prevented had the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers retained an external review board to double-check its flood wall designs, as many levees were on unstable grounds and were not reinforced correctly. So also, another good prevention would be looking to better infrastructure. So poor project planning, flawed project design, misplaced priorities, and the destruction of the city's natural flood protection, Louisiana's coastal wetlands, were the root causes of the city's ruin. So another good recommendation is to rebuild all levees and further research all areas of damage for further strengthening. If the coastal wetlands in the Gulf had not been destroyed by canals, levees, and channels, they would likely have provided some degree of natural flood protection from the storm surge. Inland, natural flood protection can also be attained by maintaining healthy upland and watersheds that slow the rate of runoff, protecting and restoring wetlands and floodplains, and by restoring a river's natural flow and meandering channel, could all have prevented this bad disaster from becoming even worse. And my resources.